So to start Module 20B, Churchill comes over about a year after Pearl Harbor, addressing both houses of Congress, and he gives a speech. And he says this: this is not the end of 42. This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end. But it is perhaps the end of the beginning. Okay? Like the Churchill's got away with words here. Okay? This is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end, but it is the end of the beginning. Now it really starts. Okay? So I'm going to talk to you today about the first and most pressing issue we have to do, and that is to clear the Atlantic. Yes. Yes. We've got to clear the Atlantic of these German U-boats that are sinking our ships. Okay? They are sinking our supplies. They are sinking our destroyers and so forth. Okay? So the Battle of the Atlantic will take place between mid-42 and mid-43. Guys, we're going to win this battle. But it's going to come at great cost. What are you guys talking about? What are you guys talking about, laughing about?
You said we're going to win this battle. So I said, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
They thought it
was funny.
Okay.
You just like kind of commentated on what you said. I wasn't ready for it.
Okay. So, U-boats would travel in what were called wolf packs, groups of 4 or 5 submarines. Remember when I talked about the convoys of ships going across the Atlantic? So they would target these convoys. Now look at this, guys. In 1 month, May of 42, 120 ships get sunk. Okay, that's about 4 a day. All right. So this is really beginning to threaten our supplies going across, and pretty soon, guys, that's going to be our troops going across. So we got to deal with this. So where there's a will, there's a way. And again, this is why we rely on smart people. We're going to figure out a way to spot these submarines and take them out. We're going to use something called sound, navigation, and ranging, or sonar. Okay. If you've watched a submarine movie ever, you've probably seen this, okay? We will send out, yeah, the ping. Who's making that noise? Do it louder. Make the ping noise. It's pretty good. Louder. It's a loud ping.
There's like a Batman version with a sonar.
Oh, nice. Oh, I have not seen Lego Batman. Sorry. It's that one. Okay. So it kind of looks like this, guys. So you send the ping from the destroyer. It goes out underwater, hits an object, and reverberates back. Kind of like this graphic on my notes right here. You guys see how the Atlantic, this is all, can you see that?
Did you make this?
Yeah.
This is very artsy.
I'm glad.
This is what you learn in get your master's in education. Learn how to do this stuff.
I like the 3D module 20B.
Yeah.
Nice.
Isn't that like 3D? Yeah, it's cool. It's like superhero-ish.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
It reminds me of The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, it's an incredible slide, I would say. Generally.
You're just on it today.
Hey, you are on it today.
Okay. So,
Oh my
could this be a whale? Yeah. Unfortunately, it could be a whale. Okay. But is this not how whales and dolphins communicate? Yeah. Okay. So when there's a lot of noise underwater, this is bad for the whale. Okay. This is why they are canceling, from what I understand, they are canceling that wind farm on the Atlantic coast. That is, a lot of whales are washing up on the beach. okay, with this big wind farm. And I think they're shutting it down, okay? Good for the whales. Okay. Save the whales. All right, now, we weren't too concerned about the whales when we're trying to hunt U-boats, though, okay? So I'm sure some whales took some hits. Now, once you find the location, the distance, the depth of these subs, how do you take them out? Okay, you could use a torpedo. Now, a torpedo is like a bullet. Now, does everybody in here know how to swim? You know how to swim? Do you?
I can't drop.
You're not.
I can swim, but I can't float.
You're not proficient.
Like, if I stop swimming, I'll drown.
Yes, you will drown. That goes for all of us.
I can drop.
I've got a buddy of mine, one of my good friends, that does not know how to swim. Okay, and he is petrified. I'm serious, guys. Petrified of water. Okay, like I call him in the summer, like, hey, my neighbors are out of town, gonna hang out at the pool today. You want to come over? No, I don't want to get in the pool. Okay, and he actually went out on a boat with some buddies and I this summer. And like life jacket the whole time, you know what I mean? And don't mess with me. It's like, serious, don't mess with me. And I'm like, oh, no. Because no, like seriously, he'd kick my butt anyway. So anyhow, guys, you ever been in the deep end? When you feel the pressure from your ears, okay? Guys, so you don't have to have a direct hit with the torpedo, but a torpedo is kind of like a bullet. So like, if it misses, it may just keep going. Okay, it doesn't necessarily blow up when it's close to the sub. So we're going to find another way to do this. Anybody know what these are called? Well, mines are something you can put out, but you're not going to mine the Atlantic. You might mine a harbor or a bay or something like that, but you won't mine the ocean. It's too hard. Okay. Yeah, you guys are Catholic. You've probably seen one of these before. You guys ever seen a keg of beer before? Of course you have. Who am I fooling? Right? So you guys know a keg's about this big, about this round. So think of a keg, and then you fill it with explosives. This is going to be called a depth charge. Okay? And you're going to throw this off the back of a destroyer, and it's going to sink. Well, let me show you. Kind of like this video game shows. Okay?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay? So you got subs under there. There's a wolf pack. Okay? You just start, and they have a machine, and it just boom, boom, boom. And then they drop down to the depth. You can set the depth of the explosion, okay, based on sonar. And then you don't have to have a direct hit because of the pressure underwater. The explosion can crack the hull of the submarine if it's close, okay? Then if you crack the hull of the submarine, what does it have to do? It's got a surface, okay? And a surface submarine is a sitting duck, okay, or a lame duck, if you will. A little history humor there. Okay. Some of you have went.
That's that period.
Okay. Lame duck, 20th Amendment.
That's the.
Between the election and inauguration. Yeah. All right, good. We got that cleared up. Okay, so let me show you what this looks like. So there's a sitting duck, okay? A surface submarine, easy to attack for a destroyer, okay? Now, if they don't want to surface, they're going to sink. And everybody's going to die. This is what a depth charge looks like on the surface after it explodes underwater, okay? And this is, there's a little picture of one. Now, we developed different types of depth charges and so forth, okay? But let me show you here. This guy right here is doing some sub hunting. Okay, so there's a sub under there, and they're just lofting those depth charges off the back. Okay. So I know you guys want to see what that looks like in real life, right? Yeah. So I got a video here. right. That's kind of a, it's kind of a big explosion, isn't it?
That's huge.
Yeah.
What if you like in the middle of the things like that was also like how deep is
Now.
water that's coming out of the water.
So, we're equipping our destroyers and our cruisers with sonar, but we're also going to use reconnaissance from the air. Okay, now this is called a Pegasus. There's other ones. I'll introduce you to the Catalina. These have radar equipped, and they're just patrolling over the ocean to look for surface sub. Now, these German U-boats do have to surface to reoxygenate. Now, we have submarines today, guys, that are nuclear submarines that can circumnavigate the globe underwater and be submerged for 6 months without surfacing. Okay, the German U-boats have to surface from time to time. Okay, so these planes are out looking for them. All right, and if they do find them, they're equipped with depth charges that they will drop into the water. Okay, now the problem here is, guys, these planes they can't go out into the middle of the Atlantic and come back. Okay, so we're mostly patrolling the coastlines, within 100 miles or so of the coastlines. Now, later on, we'll develop this plane here, okay, the Liberator, which can go out to the middle Atlantic and make it back, okay? But these flying boats, if you will help also hunt these subs, okay? So I got like a 2-minute video on that. About how that works, okay?
Form of air-to-surface vessel radar was beginning to be utilized. By mid-1941, half of Coastal Command's patrol aircraft were thus equipped. Another effective long-range patrol flying boat entered the fight, the American PDY Catalina. One of its primary missions was to destroy surfaced U-boats transiting through the Bay of Biscay. But even long-range Catalinas operating from Britain, North America, and Iceland could not provide cover for convoys in the mid-Atlantic. This gap was fully exploited by U-boats using wolfpack tactics, which decimated the convoys. By the end of 1942, losses had doubled to 5.5 million tons, or over 1,000 ships sunk.
Check this out.
Gradually, the gap would close with the introduction and strength of very long-range Liberator aircraft. By 1943, the tide of war had turned against the U-boat, so that it was reduced from a predatory wolf to a hunted dog.
Hunted dog.
The Battle of the Atlantic was arguably the single most important one of the war. Had the U-boats won, Britain would not have been able to sustain war against Germany, and leading the fight against the U-boats had been the anti-submarine airplane.
Okay. So that gives you a pretty good picture of, how we were combating them. Yeah.
Did the Allies ever use?
We had subs too. Yeah. Yeah. The British had subs. I'm not real familiar with a lot of American submarine use in the Atlantic. I know we used it more in the Pacific. But this is some good pictures here. And then the notes on this, there's a good picture of like what a convoy is going to look like going across the Atlantic. Okay, so the good thing about convoys was that if your ship got hit and it sunk, there were other ships around to pick you go overboard, your life vest, and there's other ships to pick you up, okay? For instance, right now in the Mediterranean, we have 2 aircraft carrier groups in the Mediterranean because what's going on in Israel. And there's always ships that accompany these aircraft carriers. Now, all of our aircraft carriers, guys, are nuclear powered now. So they don't need fuel, but the other ships need fuel. And so we have refueling ships, tankers, cruisers, destroyers. We don't use battleships anymore. Battleships is a World War II thing, okay? So you don't see those because we have missiles now instead of big guns. And the destroyers launch the missiles and the cruisers launch missiles and so forth, okay? So when it's all said and done, guys, between sonar and radar from the air, we will sink 785 German U-boats. Okay. Now, I did notice on Netflix, this popped up on my screen. It might be because I've been watching war movies, but U-571 is now up on Netflix. So if you got some time this weekend, you run across that on there. It's a pretty good movie. It's about a group of American submarine people that try and take command of a German submarine. Okay, I think Matthew McConaughey's in it, ladies. So. But the best submarine movie of all time, The Hunt for Red October. It's a Cold War movie. Okay. So it's about American and Soviet submarines. It's really good. Now, our submarines today carry nuclear warheads. So you can launch a nuclear warhead from a submarine underwater, launch it underwater, it comes out of the water, goes out of the Earth's atmosphere. It's an intercontinental ballistic missile back into the Earth's atmosphere and hits a target. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty scary. We had those as early as the 1960s, submarine launched ballistic missiles, okay, with nuclear warheads on them. The Russians had them too, which means you can put nuclear warheads anywhere in the world, you know, as long as it's in the water. You know what I mean? So very kind of frightening stuff. Okay, so good here? Yeah. All right, so anybody know what this machine is right here? Looks like a typewriter. Somebody say it? The Enigma, okay? This is the German code machine, okay? It's highly sophisticated. Okay, it looks like a typewriter. It does have a keyboard on it, okay? But up here, there's 3 rotors that have the alphabet on it, okay? There's 26 letters in the alphabet times 3. Imagine how many different combinations of letters you can get with that. Okay, it's off the charts. So, if you can steal one of these machines from the Germans, you still can't break the code because the Germans change the setting every week. So what you got to be able to do is figure out what the settings for the machine are before you can decode a message. So like if you press the letter W, it is guaranteed it's going to show up as another letter. Based on the settings of the machine that week, you can decipher what that letter is. So you press W, it shows up as a Y. Okay? But the settings got to be right. 3, what did I call them? Rotors. Okay? Now, I'll show you a video on that on Monday. But guys, one of the most important parts of this war is figuring out the German codes. Because remember, the element of surprise will be gone if we can break this code machine. So the British tried to find the smartest people in their country, men and women, and they sent them outside of London to a place called Bletchley Park. And it was here that these really smart people tried to figure out how to break this code. Okay? And there was one guy in particular, his name was Alan Turing. Okay? He built a computer in 1942 to figure out how to reverse engineer a message to figure out what the settings were that week. This is a computer the size of this wall. Okay, it's magnificent what he was able to do. Incredible. You seen the movie?
Well, I know who Turing is.
Mm-hmm.
About the Turing test.
Okay, what is that?
I think it's about like with AI,
Mhm.
it's deciding like can't exactly remember, but like it's deciding like having a person write something, having a robot write something, and which one can you tell is the robot?
Okay.
Which one can you tell is the person?
Okay.
Stuff like that.
So maybe Turnitin.com is using the Turing test to Turing test to help decipher what's real and what is not.
Yeah, and also captchas. You know, when it's like are you a robot? That was based off of his work.
Okay.
So like.
Yeah. So the movie is called Imitation Game. Okay. Imitation Game. It's really good. Now, there's, like I said, there were men and women that did this. And this is kind of one of the sad parts of it. This happened to a lot of women during World War II. Women were in great need during the war. Well, when the war was over, a lot of women lost their jobs back to men. Okay. With these code breakers in Britain, okay, a lot of these women who were vital to winning the war, they lost their jobs. So there's a TV show that the British did called Bletchley Park, okay, or it might be called Homefront. But it's about these women who were code breakers during World War II in Britain, who lose their jobs and now they're bored. They're bored housewives, and so they read newspaper articles about crime, and they use their code breaking skills to solve crimes. It's a great show, okay? Loosely based on, you know, Bletchley Park and code breakers, okay? All right, so. Good afternoon. Let's talk, okay? I just got a couple more minutes. Pay attention here, okay? Now, we've got to figure out where we're going to send our troops. Here's the big problem. World War I ended in 1918. 2018, let's start over there. 1928, 1938. So if you fought in World War I, you're now over 40 years old. So all of our troops, guys, are green. None of our troops have seen combat. Now, General Patton and some of the officers and so forth, they fought in World War I. Okay, General Patton was a tank commander in World War I. He's going to be a World War II general. Follow him. So, when we start thinking about, all right, let's go kill some Nazis. So, if we try to send American troops across the English Channel back onto the coast of France, into the teeth of the German army, our guys haven't seen any combat. They're not ready for that. And Churchill's like, listen, Roosevelt, you don't want to do this. Now, Stalin, who's fighting for his life out here in Russia, the Germans and the Russians are going at it all through 1942, 41, 42. Okay? What Stalin would like is for us to open a front in France, which would relieve pressure from Russia. Okay, it would turn Hitler's attention back here. But Churchill wins this argument. And he says, listen, Roosevelt, you need to get your troops some action first before you send them in against the Germans. So Churchill says we need to go after the soft underbelly of the beast, which is going to be North Africa and the Mediterranean. Okay, that's where we're going to send our troops first. So November 8th, 1942, 11 months after Pearl Harbor, we're going to land troops here, here, and here. Okay, now, this is French Morocco, French Algiers, Libya is controlled by the Italians, and the British control Egypt and much of the Middle East. So the British are on our side, right? Yeah, what Hitler wants to do, he's got troops in North Africa. Hitler does. He wants to break across and take control of the Suez Canal, there's only two ways in and out of the Suez Canal, or of the Mediterranean, the Suez and the Straits of Gibraltar. The British control this one. Hitler wants to take Suez and then get to the oil fields of the Middle East. Okay? The British are going to stop it. Here. There's going to be a big battle here I'll talk about on Monday. And then the British are going to start pushing the Germans, the Africa Corps, back this direction. We're going to land here. Now, these are green troops. The first enemy that we're going to face in North Africa are going to be troops from what country? First is going to be the French. The Germans have some troops over here, but they're just to keep the French in line. The French troops are now, Vichy France, are now part of the Germans. So when we land at Casablanca, Oran, and Algiers, we're going to fight the French. And what are the French going to do? They're going to do what they always do. They're going to quit. Really quick. So our fighting here is not very difficult. Then we're going to start running into some Italians. And what are the Italians going to do? They're going to do what they did in World War I. Which sides? History repeats itself. Okay? Now, not immediately will they switch sides, but they will soon. Okay? And so, yeah, we get some action against the French. We get some action against the Italians. We're going to start moving this direction towards Tunisia. The British are kicking some serious butt. This is the British 8th Army under Montgomery against Rommel and the Germans. They're going to start pushing Rommel back towards Tunisia. We're going to come in here. Now, the first time the Americans face the Germans, it's not going to go well. In fact, what happens at Kasserine Pass in Tunisia may be the worst defeat. It is the worst defeat of American troops as far as territory given up in the entire war. Okay, we're going to get our butts kicked. All right? Bad leadership, unprepared, bad tactics, and the German equipment was better than ours. Okay, so we're going to learn from that, and we're going to engage the Germans again. So what this will culminate in, guys, eventually, we'll get to it Monday. But we will defeat the Germans in North Africa, and we will capture 250,000 German troops. 250,000. This is a great victory, okay? Guys, we won't capture 25,000 Japanese in the entirety of a war. The Japanese don't surrender. They'll either die trying to kill you, or they'll kill themselves. That's the way the Japanese are. Okay? So, we get to it on Monday, guys. I'll put some notes with this, but there's not a lot to it. But we'll talk about some desert warfare, and I'll show you a little bit of video on that as well. Okay? Desert warfare is brutal. The nights are cold. Days are hot. Okay? And when a shell goes off in desert sand, the shrapnel of the sand is really tough. Okay? So we're going to get some practice here. Our troops are going to get some competency. They're going to learn how to fight. Okay? And then you can imagine we're going to go from Tunisia to Sicily to Italy. Okay? And by the time we reach Rome, it'll be 1944. June of 44. That same month, we're going to come across the English Channel on D-Day. Okay? So, there's a lot to talk about in between there. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of a broad overview here before we get into the details. Okay? But this is the soft underbelly of the beast. All right? And we'll talk more about that machine later. Good? I know we're finishing a little early, but we're just keeping pace today. Okay? All right.